They help us cross obstacles like water, but if they're not cared for, disasters can happen. This is what happened on December 15th, 1967. This is the Silver Bridge disaster 54 years later. The Silver Bridge opened in 1928, crossing the Ohio River between Point Pleasant, West Virginia, and Gallipolis, Ohio. The bridge was an I-bar suspension bridge. In simple terms, an I-bar is a piece of metal with a hole, or an eye, at the end, or both ends, used for fixing two other components, like a pin, and the hanger assembly, which is held up, which holds up the cables. On December 15th, 1967, during rush hour traffic, the Silver Bridge was packed with cars, with many lined up at both ends. At about 5 p.m., a loud noise was heard. Many witnesses later described it as sounding like a gunshot, and that a few said that they heard it from the bridge, and they were right. In just 20 seconds, the entire bridge collapsed, sending 31 vehicles into the icy waters of the Ohio River. There were several witnesses. One of them was on the bridge that day. 20-year-old Charlene Wood was driving home from work when she heard a noise and a trembling on the bridge. She could not describe the noise, but she assumed that something had hit the bridge and decided she was not going to cross. And she threw her car in reverse, but unfortunately her car stalled on her, but it kept moving, and when she finally got it under control, the bridge fell right in front of her. Another witness on the West Virginia side heard her children running inside and screaming, saying that the bridge, something had hit the bridge. When she walked out, she saw it collapse right in front of her. She described it as as if you built the bridge out of child's play blocks and knocked it over. Moments after the collapse, silence. The entire bridge, except the tower supports, had collapsed. All in total, 46 people were dead, 21 survived with injuries, and 2 were missing. But what could cause such a horrific collapse? Well, in simple terms, it was a very tiny crack. An investigation later found that a very tiny crack on I-bar number 330 was the cause. The crack was measured in at 0.01 inches deep. This goes back to the I-bar suspension bridge design, its redundancy. Because when I-bar number 330 failed, that caused less tension and weight on the other tower that then caused it to fall and then caused the entire bridge collapse. The crack also formed due to stress led by the manufacturer, which allowed water to get in and lead to corrosion, which happens to all metal. And this basically caused a domino effect, because when the armor failed, it caused as I said, the tower on the other side with the loss of balance between the towers, then that caused other I-bars to fail, and then the entire bridge to collapse. Another cause, poor maintenance. The bridge's last inspection was in the 1950s, although the bridge had been inspected since then. It was not thoroughly, and the crack went unnoticed. This also includes the increased traffic on the bridge, as the bridge's ADT, average daily traffic, was more than it was designed for, as there were more vehicles crossing the bridge, and more heavy vehicles crossing the bridge, than vehicles in 1928. The bridge was also used for interstate traffic, meaning many cars, tractor-trailers, and travelers. And there was also traffic lights at both ends, causing backups during rush hour, like what happened on that day. And this led to a massive attention on older bridges. However, there was only 2 similarly designed bridges. And soon after, Lyndon B. Johnson established national bridge inspection standards, requiring all bridges to be inspected every 2 years, and if there's any problems, it is increased to 1 year and even once a month, depending on the issues. The St. Mary's Bridge downstream was immediately shut down after and was demolished and replaced by the High Carpenter Memorial Bridge. The other similarly designed bridge was the Hercílio Luz Bridge in Brazil, which closed and reopened, but the bridge has since been restored and reopened in 2019. The Silver Bridge disaster has inspired legislation to ensure that older bridges are looked after, but as we all know, aging infrastructure is still a problem today. There have been many collapses with the same cause, like the Minnesota Bridge collapse in 2007. The disaster has left a legacy as engineering historian Henry Petrowski said in his book, To Forgive Design. Reviewing, he finds it a cautionary tale for engineers of every kind. As a result of thoroughness of the investigation, the cause of disaster was precisely and indisputably found to be a design that inadvertently made inspection all but impossible and failure all but inevitable. If ever a design was to blame for failure, this was it. Although he does not fault the bridge designers who were ignorant of many of these hazards, instead he points to the future. If there's anything positive about the Silver Bridge failure, he concludes, it is that its legacy should remind engineers to proceed with the utmost caution and ever mindful of the possible existence of unknowns and the potential consequences of even the smallest design decisions. In 1969, the Silver Memorial Bridge was completed as a replacement. Located 1 mile downstream, the bridge is a truss design carrying 4 lanes of US 35 across the Ohio River, and it is still standing nearly 50 years later. A memorial plaques placed at both ends of the river, listing the names of the people who died. The Silver Bridge has been designated a National Historic Civil Engineering Landmark by the American Society of Civil Engineers, as the collapse led to the creation of the first National Bridge Inspection Program in the Federal Highway Act of 1968. The Silver Bridge has left a mark in the history of bridge construction, reminding us to maintain our bridges so we all can cross safely.